Yeah, you know what? I might as well not record this thoughts on Doctor Who because that little laugh I just did, that pretty much sums up my entire thoughts on the whole thing. Welcome to Thoughts for Episode Doctor Who Edition. Today we are talking about the brand new episode which has just come out called The Star Beast, where we meet... I thought he was called Beep the Meep, but I don't think he's ever actually named in the episode. I think he's just called the Meep, which is funny because I set up this entire bingo card of things which might happen, and I crossed off many of those, but my free tile was that there is a Beep, and it is... No, there is a Meep, and it is called Beep. And I don't think I can actually cross that tile off. I crossed it off anyway, but... You know what's funny is that I think... while it's based off of an actual creature that showed up in an old Doctor Who comic or something, I think the Meep is very much meant to be a take on like how every franchise has to have this cutesy little creature that everyone loves and adores, and very often when those cutesy little creatures show up, I don't actually like buy into them, you know. I'm not like with like... Okay, maybe with Baby Yoda, I'm a little bit like that. I know he's not called Baby Yoda, don't at me. But I'm a little bit like that. But for the most part, I'm like, yeah, I get it. It's cutesy, whatever. With Beep the Meep, I was actually like, oh my god, I fucking love the Meep. I want a Meep. And then, oh no, it was evil. That Meep was such a naughty little Meep. Such a naughty little Meep. In prison for 10,000 years. Yes, damn right. We still have no idea what's going to happen next episode. By the way, they didn't do a next time on Doctor Who, which I thought would be a very easy bingo square to hit, but apparently not. Just so you know, I am actually reining in my emotions right now. If this was a truthful thoughts on, it would just be 10 minutes of me screaming at the top of my lungs and you wouldn't get any thoughtful commentary out of me at all. How did it feel to see David Tennant and Catherine Tate do another episode of Doctor Who as the Doctor and Donna Noble? Oh my goodness, I cannot quite describe how it felt. In an age where fan service sequel shows are being thrown out left, right and centre for various franchises, I have seen a lot of them and I have benefited from a lot of them, but the one that is closest to my heart in terms of shows and franchises is probably Doctor Who, and so to see it happen for Doctor Who and for it to be this good, top television moment of the year. Contender, probably, for top television moment of the decade. David Tennant was an absolute treat in this. Like, he was so fun. I was a little bit worried that it was going to be crammed full of references. There is a Doctor Who comic by Image Comics? Is it called Image Comics? I forget what they're called. Hang on, I've got it on my bookshelf. I'm going to go check. Titan Comics, sorry, published a 10th Doctor comic called Revolutions of Terror, trade paperback comic. And I don't really like it because it's just so crammed full of tenisms that it doesn't feel like it actually portrays the character of the Doctor in a meaningful way. It's just like look, this is when he would say this thing. It's been a long time since I've read it. I don't know if my opinion is still the same, but I wasn't crazy about it. I was worried they might go a similar route in this special, but no, not at all. I mean, okay, they did the what joke like 3 more times, which was a bit much, but it didn't bother me. And I think what I liked most about the Doctor in this episode is he has all the same questions that we as the audience do. Not only does he feel familiar, he feels very relatable in that way. Like when he's, you know, not officially joining up with UNIT to help solve his problem yet because it's all a bit much. He doesn't really know who he is yet. He has so many questions about why he is this version of himself again, and you know, all this trepidation he has around Donna. And I love that scene at the beginning of the episode in the square where he bumps into Donna, and then he bumps into Donna's daughter, and then he bumps into Donna's husband, and he's just like, oh, give up. It was so fucking good. I was really glad to see them lean into the idea of Donna's daughter as a trans character, because obviously she is played by a trans actress, and I like the idea. I think, okay, so like not to get too into it, but one of the things that frustrates me a little bit about the 13th Doctor is that she is the first female Doctor, and the confirmation of a Time Lord or whatever she is, whatever they are, as this creature that can change between genders, that is fluid between genders. And in Stephen Moffat's era, Peter Capaldi made some sort of, you know, commentary about, well, you know, Time Lords swap genders, it's just what we do, it's not really a thing that we stick to. But the whole thing with Jodie Whittaker's Doctor as the first female Doctor is they never really addressed it in any meaningful way which might have meant something to someone who has transitioned from one gender to another. And I'm not trans, which is why I'm not going too far into this myself, but like, I really appreciate that they took the time in this episode to really drive home, again, that idea of the Doctor as someone who transitioned between genders. It wasn't just, haha, 30 minutes ago I was a white-haired Scotsman, and then we never talk about it again. I mean, no, they brought it up a couple of times, but, like, only in, like, a jokey way, whereas this time round, they were definitely like, yeah, I mean, I think, again, I'm not really the audience for it, I guess, because I'm not trans. I think the writing got a little bit hammy about the whole, like, Donna Noble repeating the word binary and how that translated to Rose Noble realizing she was non-binary in a way. That felt slightly forced, but maybe that's not important. I've already seen positive feedback about it online, so that's probably the most important thing to take away from it. It definitely felt a bit like, you know, when you're watching something, you're like, oh, I'm enjoying this, but I know there is a certain crowd who is angry about this scene. Maybe that's less of a criticism of the actual show and more of a criticism of the people who watch it. Anyway, I really liked also Donna's slow realization that people are hiding something from her as the entire episode goes on, and how it culminates in her, like, calling the Doctor by his name, saying that she's got to go help him, and Sylvia's face falling as she realizes we've never called him the Doctor. Like, she's starting to remember, kind of a thing. Do I think that the solution to the Time Lord meta crisis was a little bit easy? Yes. Do I think it's unimportant and this is all made up sci-fi babble anyway? Also yes. Oh, I'm all over the place. I apologize. You have to understand. You have to understand, I just got a new episode of Doctor Who with David Tennant and Catherine Tate. The other thing I was going to say is I really like the design of those aliens. I don't know if they ever got an actual name. I'm sure they did, but I didn't hear it, or I failed to catch it. But the aliens who are portrayed as the aggressors to begin with, also that entire flip was pretty fun. I love how they looked. I love how they talked. I wouldn't be surprised to hear that they're a returning alien from a previous time in Doctor Who. But that being said, I also would expect the Doctor to be like, oh my god, these are these dudes. I haven't seen these in a very long time, like they do with every other time a new monster from an old episode comes up again. So if they are entirely new, they nailed the look of, like, a Doctor Who alien race that's never been seen before. I would totally buy that that was in a classic episode or something. They're very, like, retro sci-fi. They're very, like, between 60s to 80s sci-fi, I would say. You know, as I continue talking, I'm starting to realise I really don't have much else to say about this episode. I just really fucking liked it. I just really fucking enjoyed it. I'm just so happy. Oh, the new TARDIS interior. The new TARDIS interior. The new TARDIS interior looks, well, at first I thought it looked a little bare. Like, it's very big, it's very wide and very open, it's very white, which is obviously a callback to the earlier TARDIS interiors. It's like a modern old TARDIS interior, which is really cool, but I was like, oh, it's very white, isn't it? And then the lights changed colour, I went, ooh! I wonder how they're going to use that in future episodes. Obviously turning red with a cloister belt. Oh, and Donna Noble immediately spilling the coffee onto the console. Fucking amazing shit. That was peak Catherine Tate comedy. Also, I slightly think she might have done it on purpose, because then she knew she got to go on an adventure instead of just going to see Wilf. I assume we're still going to see Wilf at some point. Obviously, I know, unfortunately, Bernard Cribbins is no longer with us. But he was seen filming behind the scenes at one point back when they were filming this stuff, so we'll probably get him towards the end of episode 3 or something. They'll, like, actually fix things and go back and visit him. I love how much Wilf was in this story, even though Bernard Cribbins wasn't in the episode. Like, the Doctor, like, you know, clearly cares so much about his friend, Wilf. They gave us 2 fake-out deaths of nobles in this episode, didn't they? Wilfred Mott, I guess he's not a noble, but he's a Mott, but he's a noble. Wilfred, they faked us out on his death. Oh, I guess he's not around anymore, he was old. It's like, no, he's not dead. That was fun. And then obviously the fake out of Donna dying. The problem with the fake out of Donna dying is I'd watched the bloody trailers and I knew she wasn't going to die. So while she was dying in the Doctor's arms, I was a little bit taken out of the emotional moment because I was going, she doesn't die though. Anyway, this episode was great and it was campy and it was fun and I loved it. I loved it so much. I'm going to throw up my bingo card on the screen now. Here's the blank version. And here's the version with the crossed out parts. Now, you might think some of those are a little bit generous, but we saw an ood. It was a knitted ood, but it was an ood. Donna came up with a simple solution. I'll just let the Time Lord meta crisis go, which is apparently a thing you can do. Again, it was a bit simple. Again, it doesn't really matter. The repeating theme emerging is clearly when the Meep was like, oh, I'm gonna tell my boss about you. That's clearly like, yeah, we're gonna We're gonna see that come up again. Something very camp happening. That was just the whole episode, really, wasn't it? That was the whole episode. Rose, I Had a Friend Called is literally a tile dedicated to the Doctor learning the name Rose and being a little bit shocked by it. And that happened pretty quickly. And there was a reference to the Doctors between the two Tennant Doctors. So there we go. I did pretty well with that, I think. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to some random geezer on the internet. Oh, I've never called myself a geezer before. Ew. Well, listening to me tell you what I thought about the episode. Let me know what you thought about it down below if you like. I'm not going to make you, I'm not your dad. Like the video if you liked it. It makes me have happy brain tinkly things. And I will see you in the next one. Are those just two things that I say at the end of every video now? Damn.